This video is going to be a film study look at how Derrick Henry and the Ravens run game went into Los Angeles and really took control second quarter onward. I think the game flow drastically changed once the Chargers went up 10 to nothing. Todd Monken kind of out Greg Roman, and it's almost an unfair fight and an unfair statement to say that because Todd Monken has Derrick Henry. And there's some mistakes by our offensive line, particularly on zone schemes in this game, if you ask me, whereby it appears as if the right side of our offensive line sometimes is not communicating with one another, number one. Number two, we have a little bit of unrealistic expectations on two of these plays for Tyler Linderbaum, such that if we helped him out a little bit, we could actually get things accomplished. The Ravens are able to run for over 200 yards against the Chargers defense that came into the game number one in the NFL in scoring defense, and we went in there and dropped 30, even though we fell behind 10-0 and got nothing accomplished in our first two possessions. We're going to get right to the film. We're going to talk about Derrick Henry in this video primarily, but also focus on Lamar Jackson reading the option, and then finish with Justice Hill's 51-yard touchdown to put the game out of reach. We're going to pick up here as the Ravens are down 10-0, and this is going to be a 19-yard gain by Henry off tackle, a kick zone concept. So pay attention to Ricard on this path. He's going to take on Derwin James outside on the edge, and then how we're able to secure the edge defender or defensive end. In this case, I think it's Bosa. So keep this in mind a little bit, this kind of wrap technique that we get with the backside lineman. In this case, it's Tyler Linderbaum. Kick out block by Ricard. Henry is able to hesitate for a moment and then fit underneath of that, essentially an off-tackle run play. Old school kick concept, except we're not down blocking it. We're zoning it to the front side. Chargers seem to have a pretty good bead on some of our audibles or some of our checks. I think they know that it's run here. I mean, check out Derwin James' reaction. But what we're doing from an O-line standpoint, we get this edge secured, and we end up kind of wrapping here with Linderbaum. It's not an actual wrap, but he folds to the front side because he's taken over the defensive tackle. I think this is the defensive tackle / fullback hybrid. Henry hesitates, and you can see the seam or the wall that's created there. As an aside, I get it that they have a fullback / defensive tackle that they utilize. It saves a roster spot. We've played that game before with Pat Ricard. I don't know if you noticed it or not, but during the broadcast, I think it was Aikman said that Ricard still occasionally plays D tackle. Like what? Like, hello, 2020 call. That hasn't happened for 4 years, number one. Number two, as far as the Chargers go, utilizing that guy at D tackle, it was completely ineffective in my opinion. 3 different times he's on the field, and big runs occur for the Ravens in the run game. The cool thing about the Ravens is we're using outside zone, stretch schemes, and gap or power schemes at the same time. So we vacillate or go back and forth, and that has always scared me as a defensive coordinator, someone that would look at teams' run schemes and just kind of breathe a sigh of relief when on film we would see a team that only ran zone schemes or only ran gap or power schemes and counter because we knew what to look for. We knew what we could read in that given week. This is the very next play. So you saw a zone scheme with Ricard in the lead, and now here's a power concept. We ran power to death against the Chargers, particularly to our left. So Falele, I don't think him and Rosengarten are doing a great job at all consistently comboing together. It's not the point of this play. This is actually a power concept. So Falele is going to pull and wrap, and I think he's gotten a whole lot better at this particular technique. Staying real tight to the wall. There was 2 reps earlier in the season where he kind of like got a lot of space between him and the down blocks, the wall that's being built. You got the kick out block by Ricard, wrap by Falele, and he seals it. Henry cuts off of there, 14-yard gain. Also a nice job by Zay Flowers getting in there and sticking his head in there, trying to deal with the strong safety to the field. Again, this is picking up where we're down 10-0. What I like about the under center run game and how we utilized it against the Chargers is we used it to set up other offense. So you'll see 2 examples of that in this video. This is going to be incomplete pass to Bateman up top. against one of their DBs that I thought was generally overmatched when we were willing and able to get the ball to him. What I also like about this is Lamar appears to be making the same check. So this could be a dummy call, but the Chargers don't, nothing happens. It's a 2nd and 5. Nothing happens in terms of them rolling the strong safety or anything down when Lamar made that check. So again, they had a pretty good beat on what we were doing. I love that we've gone play action. And I think it was Aikman talked about, maybe Bateman could take this route away from that safety. The ball is still put in a location where he could theoretically catch it. I will give you the end zone angle on this one. I don't consider it a drop. I mean, the safety makes a play on the ball. At what point is something a drop, a pass defense? Well, when the defender makes contact with the ball. Seems pretty obvious to me. In this case, I think the safety number 32 actually does. Notice Kolar here briefly step to the edge defender and then run across, handled nicely by, I think it's Hanley, 0, one of their inside linebackers. He's really kind of tied Kolar up. You also have Zay Flowers running an over concept. He appears to probably break open, get away from this safety. I think it's Derwin James, but the ball is intended for Bateman against the safety number 32. And I think 32's got his hand in there. I guess maybe it goes down as a drop. I don't know. I just love the concept. I love that we are using Henry's gravity, using 21 or 22 personnel formations to create offense. Later on that same possession, generally focusing this on Derrick Henry and what we were able to get accomplished with him. We're going to be in 22 personnel here on a 1st and 10, and it's a downhill cut by Henry. He is abrupt when he sees something. So Linderbaum is basically soloed up with a nose tackle. That happened often on these outside zone schemes. And what he's able to get accomplished on these is pretty remarkable. Like, Linderbaum is obviously hidden by Lamar. They're both on the midline. He's going to get to this nose tackle solo. He doesn't really receive any help on these concepts. You can see Macari works immediately to this side. And I get it. We're trying to get to the outside. We're trying to stretch them horizontally such that Henry can cut it downhill and cut it back. And he does so. I think it's for 11 yards. But it's for us to just assume that Linderbaum gets this stuff done when by alignment he's already at a disadvantage, meaning the helmet of the nose tackle is here. You can't see Linderbaum's helmet clearly because it's obscured or hidden by Lamar Jackson from this angle view. So we're getting things accomplished on some of these schemes because of the quickness of Linderbaum, even though in this case he's not getting any vertical push. There's plenty of horizontal movement that Henry can utilize to determine where he wants to cut, where he wants to try to attack. Finishing off this possession, we were down 10-0 prior to this play. This is counter option, one of my favorite plays. I'll do a one-play Wednesday examination of this later on today. To keep by Lamar, if he is reading Khalil Mack, this should be a give. But everything gets kind of mucked up because of the counter scheme. So Macari is trying to block back or down. While Linderbaum works back to the backside D tackle. And this nose tackle basically engages Linderbaum, who is not engaging him. So what happens is there ends up being a collection of a mess here between Macari, Linderbaum, and then the backside tackle whose helmet you can kind of see right there. Lamar keeps it. If he's reading Khalil Mack, this should be a give. But I suspect that on some of these counter option plays, we know what the Chargers' inside linebackers are reading. We know what they're responding to. Although in this case, Hanley actually starts to move in this direction. So if it's a give to Henry, is there going to be anything there? Well, there certainly looks like you've got 3 defenders to that side just waiting on him to get the football. Lamar keeps it. We know how it works out. It was weirdly timed watching it live. I think there's times where we know what the other team is reading, that inside linebacker, and so Monken just calls it, essentially called give or called keep. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, we talked about this in the Discord during the game, during the second half of the game, that is. Sometimes as an offensive coordinator or play caller, if you're in the lead, particularly by like 14 points, the school that I grew up going to in high school, there was a rule in place. I don't want to say rule, but there was definitely a philosophy in place such that once we had a 14-point lead and we were into the fourth quarter, we didn't read it. It was a called give or a called keep. I mean, as a true triple option team, you have that advantage because you read it so often, so regularly, that the defense kind of assumes you're doing so on every snap. And the idea is that you mitigate risk by not having the quarterback read it in some of those situations where you're up by 10 or 14 points and a turnover could drastically change the tone and tenor of the game. Up 14 points or even 10 points with the football in the fourth quarter, presumably you're going to be able to close it out. And so that's the reason why we would call it a give or call it a keep. And so I do suspect on that play that may have been a called keep for Lamar. Ravens closed to 10-7 with Lamar's touchdown. And look, the Chargers early on did a nice job bottling up Henry on some of these zone scheme runs. 31 is going to be able to discard Falele and then fit underneath here. Additional to that, Linderbaum is trying to deal with the nose tackle, who does a nice job, 95, of shoving off Linderbaum in this direction and then folding back inside to deal with Henry. It's only a 3-yard gain on a lead outside zone concept. The one thing I'll say about Falele is on zone schemes, anything that is off his tracks is a real problem. He's inconsistent with at best. So as he's working up on his tracks, when a linebacker juts back inside to match Henry's cut or match Henry's path, he has difficulty with those things. He's not the only guy. That happens to many offensive linemen, particularly the bigger ones who are a little bit less athletic. But as a relative strength and weakness, I think Falele's strength right now is gap schemes, and his weakness would be outside zone or stretch schemes, whereby his athleticism in short area space can be exposed. Into the third quarter now, another one that is a short gain by Henry. It's a cutback off of Ricard. Now look, Ricard is not reading it. Ricard is inserting to try to go block the front side inside linebacker. Again, it's 31. But Henry is, and Henry's got the benefit of being deeper. So sometimes your fullback reads it just like the tailback does, and the tailback actually kind of just trusts the fullback and follows him. The initial initial read is done by the fullback in those situations. Here, because Ricard is working up to the front side inside linebacker, 31, and the gaps are moving at the same time, Ricard is working here to go get him, and 31, very conceptually similar to what I just talked about with Falele, 31 folds underneath, but now Ricard's got a player in the way. Actually, two of them. He's got Linderbaum and the nose tackle in the way. There's really nothing that he can do here, Ricard can do to try to pick up 31. Once he's stepped to the play side, in this case our right, Ricard stepping to his left, once he's stepped there and committed and he's over the top of Linderbaum and the nose tackle 90, there's no way he can get to 31. Ends up being a 3-yard gain for Henry. Look, credit to the Chargers. There were some early runs when we fell behind 10-0, and then even once we still got things going in the run game, there were some situations where they were able to stop us and slow us down. Couple of outside zone concepts are a little disappointing to me. This is a 22 personnel one at a heavy tray. So heavy means one tight end to the right, one tight end to the left, and then tray, tight end trips. So tight end, fullback, in this case Ricard, and then trips. There's nothing that Linderbaum can do. This is borderline impossible to ask him to do this. Macari does kind of reach out and get a little bit of a hand on him. I know, I get it. In certain zone schemes, you are leaving the center one-on-one. I mean, look at the differential here in this. If we're not going to at least stab the guy some, such that Linderbaum can overtake him, I know what we're trying to do. It's very similar to the first play that I showed you, whereby Ricard kicked out the edge defender. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to combo here up to the front side guy, and then Macari is also trying to take over that defensive tackle / defensive end, I think 56. But there's just no way for Linderbaum to do this against a big, athletic, strong guy. There's no way for him to do this consistently, okay? If the other team, knows where the football is going, and let's be honest, they pretty much do, Pat Ricard, then we are almost beat by alignment, in my opinion, sometimes. And we do this. Actually, we need to run it the other way. We need to run it the other way and ask Pat McCarry to go ahead and take over that nose tackle and see how that works out. Well, you probably, when you heard me say that, said, Coach, I don't think it's going to work out. Why? Because it's a difficult block. So in some cases, we're asking Linderbaum to do things consistently one-on-one that I think puts him in low percent situations. One more that's an unsuccessful run play, I guess, is a 3-yard gain by Henry on one of my favorite concepts, jet dive. I think we needed to give the jet at some point during this game. This is not a read by Lamar. But so out of 11 personnel, the Chargers, let me pull this back a little bit, are in their nickel defense. So they've got the nickel defender to the field with the ball on the left hash. So as Flowers motions across, you may say, Coach, I think they've got requisite numbers to stop the play. But the way that we block it actually puts us in position, if you ask me, to not have to deal with the edge defender. Andrews loops, Bateman goes to get the corner. I like our chances. I consider this a 3-on-3. 3 for the Ravens against those 3, and if we hand the ball off, then obviously Bosa is going to be the 4th defender. That's why you're stretching them horizontally. I still really like the play, even though it's unsuccessful from a yard standpoint. I get it. Success percent is one of the things that people talk about. I guess there's other phrases for it, my apologies. But I still think this is successful. We're threatening them horizontally. We're getting the ball to Derrick Henry, number one, forcing the defense to tackle him. That dynamic kind of doesn't show up in some of those metrics, success percentage or success rate, I guess. I love the concept. It's one that I think the Ravens should commit to a little bit more often, particularly with Zay Flowers and other wide receivers in motion. Still going to be in the third quarter here, and this is a 3rd and 1. One of the situations where I think Lamar could give the football. So Mack is the read side D end. Lamar keeps it. And look, Mack plays it well athletically, running flat down the line of scrimmage. I'll let you see the all-22 again so you can see what I mean. He didn't press forward because he understands if he comes forward at all, like this, to close space, Lamar could just kind of run to the sideline. So he's not going to try to cut the angle. He goes flat down the line of scrimmage. When you get the end zone angle, look, I get it. If we give the football, could Mack fold in here and tackle Henry for a short gain? Yes, it is a 3rd and 1, number one. Number 2, I do think there's some opportunities to just kind of dig this guy out of here or cut him and then handle the backside inside linebacker, which, to be honest with you, and I got this slowed down, is kind of what Ronnie Stanley's doing anyway. He's handling the backside inside linebacker. So I think there should be some times on these short yardage situations where we maybe don't read it and just call a give, cut the backside OLB. Mack is stepping down, yet he absolutely is stepping down. So he could fold in here and stop Henry for a short gain or perhaps no gain on the play. We only need 1 yard. Recently, in the last 3 weeks, I think Lamar's read percentage on these option plays has either decreased or we're calling a give or calling a keep more often. I've talked about it extensively on the touchdown run by Lamar to pull us within 10-7. And here I think we've got another example where the read man, this is what I was taught, if the read man tackles you and you kept the football, that's a misread. Do I think this is actually a misread? Well, Mack is doing a nice job of stepping down and then veering back outside. So he's got to be given credit for that, number one. Number 2, there's also something to be said about Nelson Aguilar's alignment and his stance kind of giving away what the concept that could be coming. Fortunately, we do pick up the first down on the very next play, 4th and 1. We went for it on multiple 4th and 1s, clearly including a 4th and 1 in the second quarter, where the tight end sneaks to get the first down from our own 16-yard line. Pretty amazing. Got to give Harbaugh credit. I haven't been the biggest fan of some of our 4th down decisions in recent years, but that one certainly worked out for us, and so he deserves immense credit for it. This is a power concept. Again, I think Falele does a much better job. Look at him sift out the inside linebacker, number 0. Watch his path and what he's got to navigate, he being Falele, what he's got to navigate to try to get there. Kolar and Stanley are essentially double-teaming the edge defender, Ricard kicking out Derwin James. And so this linebacker is going to be picked up by Falele, but outside of the down/double team by Kolar and Stanley. That's a great job by Falele, in my opinion. Springs Henry free for 27 yards. That's the amazing thing about Henry. Like, if we can just get him to the line of scrimmage on his tracks, he's going to cause real problems for pretty much any defense in the league. Like I mentioned earlier, we vacillate between zone and gap schemes from a play-to-play basis, and I'm all for it, even though I think at times the zone schemes are a little bit less successful because I don't think we do a great job with our combos and communicating who is going to deal with which defender. So Falele is working this way, just like everybody else. It has to be mentioned, we did make a concerted effort to run away from the strong side. So very Tennessee Titans-esque, meaning look at how many players are on the right side of the offensive line, left side of our screen, versus the only 2 to the left side of our offensive line, or our right-hand side of the screen, as we view it now. Our commitment to running back over there, I think, is something that has to be mentioned, and I think Monken deserves credit for it. But again, if Falele gets someone who goes off of his tracks, who basically stunts or moves at all, he's a very different offensive lineman. If you stay on the tracks or in the gap that he's stepping to, and in this case, Falele stepping to his left, 95 is not. 95 is kind of playing this little backdoor technique, letting Falele go past. He just can't adjust once he's on the move, in my opinion, at all. People, inside linebackers, defensive tackles, give us tremendous issues when they stunt, pinch, move in any type of manner that Falele didn't anticipate by his steps that align up with the play. Now into the fourth quarter here. Same possession, however, and we go 22 personnel power right. Henry picks up the first down. Give you the end zone angle. In this case, it's Macari who's pulling because it's always the backside guard that pulls on power. A little bit of a tighter alignment by our offensive linemen. Why? Because we're just trying to get 1 yard. There is, I think it's pretty obvious, an opportunity for Henry to maybe bounce this, but it's 4th and 1. We're just trying to pick up the first down. He doesn't want to possibly lose yardage. Macari and Ricard go get the front side inside linebacker, and Rosengarten, interestingly, kind of fell down along with Khalil Mack. The Chargers put Khalil Mack essentially to the strong side. Well, they tried to put him to the point of attack as much as possible. Rosengarten's feet aren't really tangled up with anyone. He just gets bowled by Khalil Mack on the pinch. Fortunate that Henry picks this one up. I believe it only went for 2 yards. Again, we're into the fourth quarter. These power concepts to our left, man, they were our big hitters. Again, it's Falele. It's Falele on the pull. And it's a huge lane that's opened up here. It's a really nice job by Stanley, kind of bumping to help Kolar out and then working up to the linebacker level. Because Stanley has to adjust here. Watch what occurs on the combo with Kolar here. And I think he steps to 31 briefly, which doesn't make sense because it's a frontside inside linebacker. But he sees 31 cross his face, immediately goes to the backside inside linebacker because technically Falele is supposed to pick up the frontside guy. I slowed it down and I'll let it run through one more time for you guys to see it. I think Falele deserves credit. He's really good at those power concepts to our left, and Stanley does as well for comboing, leaving 31 to be picked up by Falele, and then going to get the backside inside linebacker 10 yards by Henry. Again, it sets up other offensive play calls. In my opinion, we are in 21 personnel here. We're later in the fourth quarter. This is going to be play action under center from a one-back standpoint. Andrews has beat Derwin James across the field, even though he got tangled up with the frontside inside linebacker on a play action. Lamar easily finds Andrews for 9 yards. We have such a variety of ways to attack defenses. Spread concepts out of 11 or 12 personnel. The under center run game and the under center play action is an offense in and of itself, in my opinion. I also love that when Ricard is on the field, if we're going to throw the football, we can utilize him as a pass pro guy. That's, if I recall correctly from 2023, I think it was Ken from Film Study Ravens talked about on pass plays with Ricard on the field versus pass plays with Ricard off. Essentially, the data illustrates that he has an impact in pass pro and making Lamar's throwing platform more consistent, more easily accessible, I guess I should say, in order to actually get the throws off that are written on the paper or that are part of the design. We're unable to combo here on the ensuing play. 2nd and 1. This is after that 9-yard completion to Andrews. And when you get the end zone angle, you'll see that we're running it to the weak side, so away from the side where we have more receivers, or in this case, because Kolar motion right to left, another tight end. The Chargers were taking the strong safety, Derwin James, and rolling him up to the strong side generally, hence the name strong safety. They are in their nickel front here, which is interesting to me. We're running it away, and I just don't know how Linderbaum and Falele can't get this accomplished. It's a lead concept. So Ricard has got to pick up the frontside inside linebacker. That's what lead means, ISO, whatever. And Falele and Linderbaum are just unable to combo this and have anyone stay on the D tackle. Linderbaum peels off to go get the backside inside linebacker. I actually think that's the right move. I think that Falele is supposed to be taking over or holding on here, sustaining his block, and he's unable to do so. Henry gets tackled for no gain on the play. You guys know I don't pay attention to PFF grading, so I have no idea what Falele's grade was, or our offensive lineman, but I would be interested to see any type of breakdown on his grade on gap schemes versus power, versus zone stuff, because when he's on a track like power, and this is just, an illustration of how ridiculous Derrick Henry is, that he's able to get 2 stiff arms done on this 3rd and 1 out of 22 personnel to help us pick up the first down. This is, again, after Andrews' 9-yard completion on play action. No gain on the play on a zone concept by Henry, as Linderbaum and Falele couldn't navigate the combo. And then here he picks up the 3rd and 1 by bouncing it to the outside. Same possession, 11 personnel bunch, and this is a dual read. Another example where Lamar is reading the defensive end to the side of the back. Additional to that, Andrews is trying to work across to possibly kick out and or loop around as a lead blocker, but we get blown up. We get blown up here, Macari, and so as a result, you would say, some people might say, well, we can't give this football because Macari is getting blown up. That's independent of the fact that Lamar should be given this football. Yes, we're stepping down here. It's a 1st and 10, but we consistently are keeping the football in a manner such that the edge defender, in this case Khalil Mack, is still in position to tackle us. What we would say is it's a 60-minute football game, or 48 minutes if it's high school. And what we want to do is force you, as an edge defender, to step down and take away the dive. The only way that we can do that is to consistently give it. It seems like we are searching or hunting for big plays on this concept here recently. And again, I'm talking about like the last 3 weeks. I don't think we have read this dual read concept nearly as well as we did earlier in 2024 and throughout most of 2023. Finally, this is not Derrick Henry related. It is related to Lamar Jackson. This is a give, and it'll also illustrate how the lack of coordination by NFL defenses at times is astounding. So inside linebacker Henley is going to run right at Lamar, essentially forcing a give read. Well, Lamar takes it. It's an easy read, first of all, very different from what Khalil Mack was doing. Also have a dual read concept here with Likely, who's cutting underneath. But this safety is going with Likely, even though he knows that it's going to be a give read. So I'll let the all 22 flow through one more time, and then the end zone angle. I mean, Justice Hill speed, making someone miss, taking it to the house from 51 yards out, essentially finishing off the Chargers. Because this is a give read, and it's being forced, they're wasting another player by having him run with Likely. Now, also, it could be a pass play. If Likely goes out in the flats, you need him there, which I think speaks to the fact that sometimes the Ravens are and sometimes they are not reading it, and I think that can be beneficial. The Chargers are using a safety to, quote, account for Likely, even though we're giving the football to Justice Hill going the other way. That, if you ask me, is a result of putting things on film that indicate we are reading it, so the ball could end up on either side of the field. In this case, Lamar gives it to Justice Hill, takes it to the house after outrunning or essentially making the other safety miss to the field, number 32 in this case. I don't know about you, but I breathed a big sigh of relief when I saw Justice Hill break open there and start hollering. It was, of course, late at night as that occurred. This is a fun video for me to produce because there's some real, I think, benefit to running zone schemes and gap or power schemes at the same time, or from a play-to-play basis. And you see it here in this game. 2 instances in this video that I showed you today of us going from zone to power/gap or power/gap to zone on the ensuing play. And I think it's successful, puts the defense in a lot of conflict. We've got to get better at our zone blocking schemes if that's what we're going to keep doing, particularly the right side of the offensive line, but also Macari. I think there's times where Macari should be helping the center a little bit, even though on the scheme, if you see it on paper the way that's drawn up, and what you'll hear from football people is the center's got to handle that by himself. Good luck handling a zone stepping 2-eye nose tackle when you're already beat by alignment, number one. Number two, you're a center, so you're trying to snap the football. Even though it's to your offhand, your left-hand side, it doesn't matter once the D tackle is lined up that wide. It's a difficult block, lower percentage, in my opinion, if you're not going to help the center at all. And in this case, the Ravens with Pat Macari did not. I appreciate you guys' time, man. Let me know what you think of the video in the comment section and whether you appreciate the plays that I picked. I pretty much tried to show them as a progression or in order that they occurred during the Ravens' 30-23 win. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this film study look at Derrick Henry and the Ravens' run game, essentially running over the Chargers on Monday night, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.